Remember when I said that the ACA premium tax credit extensions that Democrats are asking for is popular? When I say popular, I mean really popular. I mean like puppies in apple pie popular. According to new polling from the KFF, a whopping 78% of people say that Congress should extend those tax credits. That, of course, includes 92% of Democrats, no surprise, but also 82% of independents and even 59% of Republicans. Let's dig even deeper into that last number, because this is very interesting. A full 57% of self-identified MAGA supporters say that the ACA tax credits should be extended. As I said, it's popular, very, very popular. Even if a majority of Trump's own supporters want what Democrats are asking for. That's what that polling tells us. And that level of support shouldn't be surprising, really. I mean, given that over 70% of people who receive ACA tax credits live in states that voted for Donald Trump. What is head-spinning, one of the things that's head-spinning about this entire standoff, is that Trump and Republicans think they're owning the libs, but they're really just hurting their very own voters. They'd rather dig their heels in clearly than take the political win that is sitting right in front of them. And on some level, people inside Trump's White House seem to recognize that what they're doing is not at all a great idea. I mean, according to new reporting from the Wall Street Journal, Trump's advisors are worried that the GOP will take the blame for allowing health care subsidies to expire, raising costs for millions of Americans ahead of next year's midterm elections. His advisors even acknowledged privately this week that allowing the subsidies to expire could cause political headaches for a president who was elected in large part because of voter frustrations with inflation and the rising cost of living. Now, I mean, it is very safe bet that allowing the subsidies to expire will cause political headaches for Trump. But the thing is, we don't even know if Trump is fully aware of this. I mean, he could literally have no idea that millions of his own voters are about to be paying up to you-know-what to afford their health care plans. Because a far too common theme in this second Trump presidency is that Trump does not know what is going on within his own administration. Just this week, Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer said after his White House meeting with Trump that after laying out the health care consequences to him, Trump, quote, looked like he heard about them for the first time. It has been increasingly clear that Trump's own people seem to leave him in the dark on the goings-on and key decisions, really, being made in his own administration. I mean, consider this headline from the New York Times earlier this week. Trump cuts to counterterrorism funds for New York reach $187 million. Now, if you saw that headline earlier this week, you would have thought Donald Trump signed off on those cuts, had been briefed on those cuts, or at least had some idea that they were happening. Those are big cuts to counterterrorism in New York. Well, think again. Because according to new reporting from the New York Times today, Trump didn't know about the cuts until New York's Governor Kathy Hochul called him and urged him to change course. And today he did change course and said it was his great honor to do so, as if he was providing some magical new funding for law enforcement and not just not doing the cuts that his administration had approved. If those cuts had stayed in place, it would have been the largest federal defunding of police operations in New York in decades. So, of course, he reversed course. But apparently, somehow, the president of the United States didn't have a clue that they were being put in place in the first place. And when he finally got wind of what his own administration had done, he threw things in reverse. Not a great look. But here's the lesson. Gravity does still exist. Trump might not care about policy or even understand policy or the people that bad policy affects. But every now and then, even he can recognize when something is too stupid to possibly justify. So will he throw things in reverse on the shutdown fight too? Who knows? But he'd be pretty stupid not to. Okay, starting us off tonight is Democratic Congressman Van Goldman of New York. He's a member of the House Homeland Security Committee. So, Congressman, let me start there. I mean, the Trump administration halts nearly $200 million in counterterrorism funding, a huge amount to New York, obviously. Trump has apparently no idea. When he finds out about it, he reverses course and then takes credit. There's a lot packed in there. What do you think this whole episode reveals about the state of this administration?
Well, it first of all reveals that they want to defund the police. And part of Project 2025 is to do just that. So when they bash defunding the police, they ought to look right in the mirror because that's what they're doing. The second thing is that Donald Trump is the king of creating his own fires and then putting them out. He did that back in December with the budget deal, where he threw in the debt ceiling and then he pulled out the debt ceiling and claimed that he was giving a great sacrifice. I think one of the things that we realize now on the Democratic side is we're not playing Donald Trump's shenanigans and his games anymore. What we are fighting for is simply health care for Americans, for millions and millions of Americans. You listed some of it. There's more. And the Republican bill that they claim they just want to pass as a clean CR is far from clean. It's very dirty. It's very one-sided. But most importantly, it cuts health care for millions of Americans, and it increases premiums for tens of millions more. And so we're not going with Donald Trump's games and his play acting of, AI, or I'm going to cut things and then put them back and act like the savior. The fact of the matter is they cut counterterrorism funding in New York City, where 9/11 occurred in my district. And then they realized, oh, shoot, that's probably not good. Let's put it back. And this has happened time and time again. And it will continue to happen because this is a completely chaotic administration that has no North Star other than Russ Vought trying to cut as many jobs and as much funding that Americans rely on as possible.
I love your analogy, your description of how he creates a problem and then he pretends he's solving it. That's exactly what he does over and over again. You're still in the middle of this. Everybody's in the middle of this shutdown. Do you think this reversal of sorts tells us anything about how to get into reverse course on the shutdown? Because he's politically on the way wrong side of the healthcare issue as well.
Yeah, I mean, look, you pointed out the polling, and healthcare generally is not surprisingly, appreciated by the American people. Donald Trump is not a president for the American people, and he blatantly lied to the American people during his campaign, promising to lower costs, to make life more affordable, to lower inflation. All he has done with his tariffs and his policies generally is to increase costs, increase the price of groceries, increase the price of health care, increase energy costs. And I do wonder whether he actually knows it. I think he is fed so much dung from his staff that was put in there with a very express purpose of usurping total control of the government and cutting back as much as possible of the government to benefit the billionaire patrons that they have. And it may be that he doesn't know. It may be that he doesn't care. But either way, I think that he's clearly getting old and not fully aware of everything that's going on.
You've watched him for a long time. I was speaking with one of your colleagues, Madeleine Dean, about this last night. Do you think his engagement or capacity to understand what's going on or understanding of policymaking or involvement has changed or gotten worse? What have you seen?
No, I do. And the example that really jumped out to me was when he was caught talking a couple weeks ago to Republicans and saying, well, just ram through the CR. We don't need them. We're just going to pass it. And it really seemed like he didn't understand that the filibuster exists in the Senate. And in order to pass a budget, you need 60 votes, which requires Democratic votes. It felt like he was back in the big ugly bill land where that was reconciliation. They only needed 50 votes. It is startling that a president of any kind, certainly a second-term president, would not understand the filibuster and would not understand that Senate Democrats are necessary in order to pass a budget and keep the government open. And if he is actually saying that as if he believes it, he certainly knew that before. And so this is senility, I think, rearing its ugly head.
Let me ask you to put your former prosecutor hat on for a second before I let you go. I'm going to talk about this a little bit more later in the show, but we learned late tonight that an FBI agent in the Washington field office has been fired for refusing to arrest and perp walk James Comey. And I just wanted to get your reaction to that.
It is unbelievable. It is the bottom just just gets lower and lower and lower. First, a completely bogus and politicized charge against James Comey. It will not stand. It may not even make it to trial. But then to try to use the criminal justice system in a completely improper and unethical way to embarrass James Comey by arresting and perp walking someone who was charged with false statements made 5 years ago and had agreed to surrender as it already violates every norm and policy of the Department of Justice, but worse yet, just shows how much of a political arm the Department of Justice is for Donald Trump. And the fact that Pam Bondi and Kash Patel continue to do his political bidding is shocking. And there need to be repercussions. And certainly the Republicans in Congress have to stand up. If they care at all about their own words, their own promises, their own beliefs, and their own oath. They clearly only do when there are Democrats in office. But this is descending in a really, really dangerous way.
No question about it. We're going to talk to a former FBI official a little later in the show. Congressman Dan Goldman, thank you so much for joining me on a Friday night. I appreciate it.